Is it possible, when fear hits, when the breath shortens and the stomach tightens and the mind begins to run, is it possible to stop reaching, to stop grasping for more words and more methods and more protection, and instead let one truth be sufficient? Is it possible? Yes. Yes, it is not only possible, it is the way. Now let us for a minute accept that statement. Not as a theory, not as a hope, but as a working premise for the next hour of our life. One truth is enough when it is yielded to. What is the first motion of the human mind? You know, and I know. I need another affirmation. I need a new article. I need a fresh plan. I need a person to steady me, call someone, text someone, run to someone. That is the old habit of getting. It is humanness. A human being can't help that. A human being can't help that. The human mind is a collector, always on the lookout for something to add, something to place between itself and danger. Objects, insurances, agreements, even spiritual practices multiplied and multiplied as if number could produce safety. That's not true. There isn't anybody within range of my voice that hasn't enough understanding to meet fear with one sufficient truth, if only there is the willingness to stop getting and start yielding. Now, the promise I set before you is not a pep talk. It is a law. There are 4 simple words, 4 only, that I have proved, and you will prove, that collapse fear quickly. We will come to them. Don't rush. Don't reach. If you try to grab them as another charm to put on your bracelet, you will miss their law. They are not a strategy. They are a return to source, a turning from the external scene to the inner fact from which the scene derives its color and temperature. Understand this, because here is the foundation without which the rest is only speech. Fear is not an event. Fear is a state of consciousness. The outer picture, whether of bills or symptoms or headlines, is not a detached cause operating on you. There are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. Change the consciousness. Cease granting reality and authority to externals, and the outer scene, obediently as a shadow must follow a body, begins to alter. Not because we pushed it, not because we manipulated it, but because law works from within out. All right. When fear hits, do not argue, do not accumulate, do not shop for truth as if truth were in short supply. Yield. Yield to one truth that is already complete. Let the mind's reaching fall limp, nothing, nothing, and rest your weight where safety has eternally been. In the degree that you do this, you will find the breath returns, the pulse steadies, the brow cools. Not because problems evaporated in a second, but because you are no longer sourcing your life from the problem. We will let those 4 words find us. We will not chase them. And when they do, you will recognize that fear never required more truth. It required surrender to the truth that already is. Now, what is this thing that seizes you at the throat, that turns the mind into a sprinter? Look at it closely. Panic is the human mind rushing to get certainty, get control, get prediction, get guarantees, get approval, get a number on a page to move, get a promise in an email, get a hand to hold. It is all humanness, or getting. The human mind believes that if it can put one more object between itself and the imagined harm, another policy, another vitamin, another expert opinion, another message dinging back, "I've got you," then safety will arrive. A human being can't help that. A human being can't help that. But we are not limited to being merely human. And that is the relief. Now see the contrast, because this is your diagnosis and your medicine at once. Humanness gets. Spiritual consciousness rests. Humanness lives by borrowing from the seen. Spiritual consciousness lives by drawing from source. Humanness says, if only I can secure that job, that test result, that headline to turn, that relative to agree, then I will breathe. Spiritual consciousness says, my breath was never on loan to those things. Fear, then, is the alarm bell that we have slipped from inner sufficiency into outer dependence, slipped from the invisible supply of life to idols we hope will feed us. In that instant, the mind runs. It must. It has no food of its own, so it scavenges, plans, predicts, persuades, pleads. All right, I can hear you. But my situation is real, my bills, my diagnosis, the news. Yes, the picture is vivid. The red ink is red. The thermometer shows a number. The broadcast speaks of danger. I am not asking you to close your eyes to the picture. I am asking you to open your eyes to its place. There are no detached outer effects. None. None. The picture is not a cause. It is not an independent power operating upon you from the outside. All flows forth from consciousness. The moment you grant the picture authority, as source, as cause, you enthrone it, and it governs you. The moment you withdraw authority and yield it back to source, the picture loses the right to terrorize, because cause has been restored to where it belongs. Now remember then the governing axiom for all that follows. There are no detached outer effects. Therefore our first, our primary, our decisive work is never on the outer circumstance. Not the bank account first, not the report first, not the scrolling broadcast first. The work is on orientation, on where we are recognizing cause to be, life to be, supply to be. In the degree that orientation returns to source, the mind's compulsion to get begins to soften. The hands unclench. The impulse to bargain with externals is seen for what it is, a habit of a mind without its God. And as we rest, even slightly, on the inner sufficiency, the very mechanism of panic breaks because it has nothing left to shop for. We will not add to that with a bag of statements. We will let one truth do its own work as law within us, and you will find the chase subsiding, the fear quieting. For safety was never acquired. It was recognized. Now do not mistake what I am saying for optimism or for a kindly pat on the head. This is not positive thinking. This is not denial. This is not, there, it will be all right. No, no. What we are dealing with is an operative law. A law is not true because we feel it today and doubt it tomorrow. A law is true, and our feeling about it has nothing to do with its being. When did 2 times 2 begin being 4? Tell me. It never began. It is. It is so yesterday, today, and forever. Now in the same way, truth is one. Truth cannot be multiplied, and it cannot be divided. Why? Because truth is not a bag of marbles you count out on the table. Truth is a wholeness. If you take one statement of truth and you take it into yourself until it governs you, you have not a fragment. You have contact with the whole. That is law. All right. Then why do so many statements, so often, leave you weaker instead of stronger? Because the very reaching for more is the confession of lack. The hunt for another and another and another affirmation is humanness getting, always on the lookout to add, to collect, to ensure against the next blow. That motion says to your own consciousness, I am outside my supply, I must fetch it. And consciousness being causal, it externalizes its own decree. You set up the picture of lack because you are acting from lack. That is the hypnosis. And then you say, but I need another truth. No, no, don't forget this. We have been saying it from the start. The only necessary thing is the willingness to practice one sufficient truth. Not 10, one. Now, a law does not wait for your mood to consent. The sun does not go out because clouds pass over your house. 2 times 2 does not become 3 because you are frightened. Truth does not become true when your heart rate drops. It is true now. The function of practice, then, is not to create truth, but to yield to it, to stand still, to relax the frantic hand until the truth you are acknowledging takes the throne in consciousness, and, taking the throne, governs the picture. We are not talking about recitation as magic. We are talking about consent, inner consent, to be ruled by one principle. I and the Father are one. All that the Father hath is mine. Choose any one you can live and live it, and you will prove that law operates from within out. In the moment you do this, really do it, the fear machinery begins to wind down. It has nothing left to buy, nothing left to chase, nothing left to ensure. And here is the practical question that follows like a train on a track. If one truth is sufficient, what truth can you return to instantly when the storm starts? The mind loud, the hands cold, the picture red. It cannot be long. It cannot be complex. It must meet you where breath is thin and thought is brief. It must be 4 words you can lean your entire weight upon. We will take them up. Do not run to grab them as a new charm. Prepare yourself to yield, because the power is not in many statements. It is in letting one govern consciousness until nothing in you is arguing. Nothing in you is shopping. Nothing. Nothing. And then, law, being law, will do its own work. Now, if there must be 4 words, they must be words you can say when the room is noisy and the breath is thin. Words that do not require a searchlight and a filing cabinet. They must be words that, when allowed to govern, end the motion of getting and restore you to source. And I can give them to you only on this condition, that you will not take them as a charm to add to your bracelet, but as a law to which you yield. All right. Listen quietly, not with your ears only, but with that place inside where authority is recognized. Here they are. God is my supply. Not someday. Now. Not occasionally. Always. And not figuratively, not poetically. Not as if we meant, God is my inspiration and the bank is my money. No. No. God is my supply. The one source. The only source. Now let us accept that statement for a minute. Let it stand in you unargued. What is supply? Do not narrow it to dollars and coins. Supply is life itself, beating, breathing, animating. Supply is intelligence, the idea you need at 10 in the morning and the restraint you need at 10 at night. Supply is right activity, placement, function, the exact work that fits your hand like a glove. Supply is peace, equilibrium in the nerves, quiet in the mind. Supply is timing. The door that opens when you arrive. The call that comes before you can reach for the phone. Supply is protection. Not by fences, but by being where you must be in the hour you must be there. Supply is whatever appears outwardly as the meeting of a need. And behind each appearance, there is but one source. Now take the correction that follows necessarily from this law. If God is my supply, then I am not dependent on conditions, persons, markets, diagnoses, governments, or headlines for sustenance. Not on an employer, not on a client list, not on the uptick of a market, not on a thermometer or a report, not on an agency's decision or a pundit's forecast. If God is my supply, then my support is not at the mercy of externals. Does that mean the externals will vanish? They may or may not. That is not our concern. It means that their seeming authority over you dissolves because you have returned authority to Source. When the mind runs to bargain with conditions, say quietly and mean it, God is my supply. And then stand still inside until the bargaining voice has nothing left to trade. Nothing. Nothing. Do you see why this is a complete treatment? It ends the search for an external source. It stops the hunt. It says to consciousness, you are not outside looking for your life. You are rooted in life. And consciousness, being causal, externalizes its decree. In the degree that this one truth takes the throne in you, fear cannot continue, because fear cannot live where dependence on externals has been withdrawn. Now, don't try to help it along with 10 more sentences. Don't embroider it. Yield to it. God is my supply. Life, intelligence, right action, peace, timing, protection. Flowing from within out, unborrowed, unfrightened, unthreatened. Accept it, and let it do its own work. Now how, exactly, do these 4 words do their work? Not by fighting pictures, not by wrestling emotions. Fear is a parasite. It feeds on one root belief only. My good is out there, and it can be withheld. That is its food. That is its breath. The moment you accept an external as your source, fear has a pulpit, a paycheck, and a house to live in. The moment you revoke that acceptance and return cause to God within, fear is evicted. It can shout a little on the sidewalk, but it cannot collect rent. Why? There are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. When consciousness no longer grants authority to externals as source, the entire fear structure has no foundation under it. It falls of its own weight. Now let this rhythm work in you. God is supply. God is infinite. My supply is infinite. If supply is infinite, tell me, where is the place in infinity that can be cut off? Show me the pipeline in God that can rust. Show me the channel that a person can close, a market can freeze, a diagnosis can interrupt. There is none. None. If God is the source of my being and the infinity of my being, then my life, my intelligence, my activity do not travel through human valves that someone can turn. Then what has fear to stand on? Nothing. Nothing. You see, the terror hinges on a fantasy of an outside faucet. When the faucet proves imaginary, the panic cannot continue. But I don't feel it. My hands are shaking. A human being can't help that. A human being can't help that. The first reflex belongs to the race mind. But we are not required to consent to the second motion, the interpretation that says, "Therefore I am without help. Therefore I must get." No. No. We stop there. We yield there. We let the words do what they are given to do, not as a charm, but as a throne to which we bow. God is my supply. We do not argue. We do not decorate it. We sit inside it a minute longer than the nerves demand, and in that minute, the statement begins to re-educate awareness. The breath finds its owner. The body hears a new authority and grows quiet. Understand, then, the distinction that saves you hours. Recital is sound. Yielding is government. Recital says it loudly and checks the clock. Yielding says it and waits. Waits until the picture of an external source loosens its grip in the mind, until the shoulders drop, until the bargaining thought runs out of offers. In that yielding, you are not trying to make externals vanish. You are withdrawing their borrowed crown. You are saying to the scene, kindly but firmly, "You are not source." And to God within, "You alone supply." Law takes it from there. All right, if this is queer, let us not leave it in the air. We will test it where fear shouts the loudest: money, health, and the news. We will not argue with figures. We will not debate with symptoms. We will not be hypnotized by headlines. We will yield to source in each arena and watch how fear collapses as dependence on externals collapses. That is the mechanism. That is the law. And it will prove itself wherever you let it govern. Now let us take it to the desk, where the envelopes are stacked and the numbers glare. Rent due Friday. The card statement breathing down your neck. A debt with interest that does not sleep. Work uncertain. Hours cut. A client who circles back and never lands. A sale that slips. Watch the first motion of the human mind. Plot, scheme, grasp. Discount the price. Send 10 pleading emails. Push a product you aren't proud of. Borrow to pay borrowing. Promise what you cannot deliver. That is getting consciousness in full cry. A human being can't help that. A human being can't help that. But we are not compelled to follow it to the end of the alley. Stop. Right there. Before a single call, before a single click. Accept law. God is my supply. Now don't narrow it to dollars. Supply is ideas. One clear, clean idea that renders 10 anxious plans unnecessary. Supply is right connection. The person you meet at 11 because you were quietly led to be at the corner at 10:50. Supply is timing. The door you enter when it opens, instead of bruising your shoulder against it at 9. Supply is honest opportunity. Work that fits your hands and does not leave a film on your conscience. Supply is capacity. The energy to finish, the patience to listen, the courage to decline what is not yours. God is my supply means figures are effects, they are not cause. There are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. All right, since Source is infinite and present, what is the motion of a consciousness that knows it? It gives, it circulates, it serves. The moment you shift from how much can I get to where can I cast my bread, fear begins to starve. Give what? Don't wait for a windfall to become generous. Give a dime, a dollar, a morning's care, an introduction, a sincere referral, an overdue apology. Pay what is yours to pay with an ungrudging heart. Make your offer clean, no pretense, no padding. Forgive the small debt that has kept your jaw tight. Each act of circulation breaks the spell of hoarding, for hoarding is fear's altar, and generosity is faith's doorway. Do not mistake the measure. Supply is not how swollen the account sits at sunset. Supply is the felt assurance that the source is inexhaustible and at hand. Out of that assurance comes right activity, steady steps, accurate pricing, truthful marketing, wise frugality without the stink of fear. Desperation makes foolish purchases. Assurance trims waste without self-hate. Desperation hustles. Assurance serves. And service draws to itself its own. Now the practice. Before any financial decision, send an invoice, take a gig, raise a price, call a creditor. Sit quietly. 2 minutes. 3. God is my supply. Not chanted to bend figures, but yielded to until shoulders drop and bargaining stops. Wait until the picture of the account as source loosens its teeth. Then move. From calm, place the call. From calm, ask the question. From calm, accept the modest work that keeps faith with today while tomorrow ripens. From calm, let the idea surface. Call that old client with a new integrity, repurpose a skill, stop an expense that no longer serves without fear of missing out. And notice how often, in that calm, there is a nudge to give. A tip a little larger, a kindness unpaid, a recommendation that will bless another. Don't argue. Cast your bread. You are not buying favor. You are living from supply. When the account says no, what says yes? The law within, the Father within. God is my supply. Figures will bear witness to your consciousness. They are not your God. Return to source. Act from rest. And you will prove that money fear ends where dependence on numbers ends, where supply is known as present and infinite, and the work of your hands is simply its circulation. Now take the same law into the room where the body shouts. A pain slices, a rash rises, the chest tightens, the screen flashes a number you do not like, and instantly the mind becomes a researcher, a prophet of worst outcomes. Scroll, search, compare, predict, prepare for the funeral. A human being can't help that. A human being can't help that. I am not condemning you for it, I am correcting it. The panic is only the confession that we have assigned authority to an external, to tissue, chemistry, a chart. And in that moment, the body, innocent as a mirror, seems to rule you. All right, stop right there, not to wage war on the body, not to argue with symptoms, but to return to source. If God is my supply, then God is also the supply of life. Not life on loan from flesh, not breath licensed by lungs, but life as presence, animating what you call body. If God is my supply, then harmony is supplied, wholeness is supplied, order is supplied. Since I am one with my source, nothing can be added to my life, and nothing can be taken from it by externals. Now let us for a minute accept that statement. Do not make poetry of it. Sit in its law. God is the supply of my life. Therefore the body is not my authority. It is the instrument, an effect, a servant, an obedient witness to the state of consciousness that wears it. Don't forget this. There are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. The body's report is not a cause. It is a picture on the screen. When you enthrone the picture, fear grows. When you restore authority to source, fear collapses. We do not fight the body. No, no. We do not fear germs or conditions. The moment you cease fearing them, their borrowed power over you is withdrawn. Why? Because fear is the belief in an external source. Withdraw the belief, and you withdraw the fuel. The divine presence, felt even slightly, governs the organism better than all your fretting can. And it does so without strain, without argument, without violence. Now the practice. Notice the fear. Do not decorate it. Do not narrate it. Stop. Sit or stand where you are and speak the 4 words slowly enough to be ruled by them. God is my supply. Again. God is my supply. Wait until the inner atmosphere changes, until the shoulders drop, the bargaining thoughts run out of offers, and there is a soft yes where a what if was. Yield, even a minute longer than the pulse demands. Then, from that quiet, take whatever human step presents itself. Rest a while, drink water, place a call, keep the appointment, take the remedy, without worshiping any of these as source. They are effects. Let them be what they are, channels, not cause. In that order, authority first, steps second. Health fear cannot maintain itself. You are not trying to bend flesh to your will. You are yielding flesh to the will already operating as life itself. And you will find that in the degree the throne is occupied within, the body answers to its rightful monarch. Order appears, pain softens, the mind ceases to terrify. The body shouted, "Who has authority?" Not tissue, not screens. Source. God is my supply of life, of harmony, of wholeness, present, infinite, and governing now. Now let us carry this same law into the room where the blue light of the screen paints your face and 10,000 voices tell you what to fear next. Headlines crowded with heat, panels that argue professionally, charts that climb and plummet. The human mind's reflex is the same. Get safety by getting information. Get belonging by getting outraged. Get control by getting louder. Scroll, refresh, share, correct, condemn. A human being can't help that. A human being can't help that. But you are not compelled to be hypnotized by externals. Stop. Right there, before your thumb moves again, accept law. There are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. If consciousness is causal, then fear-filled consciousness, multiplied by millions, externalizes more conflict, more confusion, more heat without light. Do you see it? The news is not a cause. It is a lit mirror. The more we invest our attention as if it were a currency buying safety, the more we announce to our own consciousness, my peace depends on this report, this vote count, this clip. And our peace, by law, evaporates into the very dependency we have enthroned. No. No. Withdraw the crown. God is my supply of safety, of intelligence, of guidance, of right placement in history. If God is my supply, I am not driven like cattle into herd panic. I may be informed, but I am not inflamed. I may be present, but I am not possessed. Now take up the nonviolence that belongs to this law. Nonviolence is not merely refusing to strike. It is refusing to add fear or hate to the field. It is the inner stance that says to the world, I cannot be made to believe that panic is power. I cannot be hired by hatred. When you sit in God is my supply, you quietly withdraw your consent from the belief that violence, of weapon or word, is safety. And a law answers that surrender. The temperature drops inside you, and in that drop, wisdom appears. A sentence you were about to post changes or vanishes. A conversation you were going to inflame turns into a listening that heals. You have given the collective a gift. You have refused to export your fear. All right. Practice at the point of contact. When a headline grabs you by the throat, do not argue with it and do not binge on it. Receive the information as one would receive weather. Note it, respect it, but do not swear fealty to it. Then stop. 2 minutes. 3. God is my supply. Wait until the bargaining thoughts, I must say something now, they must hear me, I must be first, run out of offers. Let safety, intelligence, and guidance be supplied from within. Then ask, from this calm, is there anything to say or do? Perhaps you share a fact, quietly. Perhaps you donate, write, volunteer. Perhaps you say nothing and make soup for a neighbor. Perhaps you sleep. The act is clean because the source is clean. Set a boundary that honors your soul. Periods of information, followed by periods of stillness. Do not graze fear all day. Do not check for permission to be at peace. Peace is supplied. Guidance is supplied. Right action is supplied. God is my supply. The news loses its power to terrify you the moment you stop granting it the status of source. And from that moment, you stop being another echo of the fever and become, invisibly, the cool air that helps it break. Now comes the honest hour. Not the noon hour when the sun helps you be brave, but the hour when the room is dark and the ceiling is the only congregation. 2 in the morning. A sound in the chest. A number remembered. A sentence from a headline echoing in the skull. The human mind wakes with its shopping list. Get safety, get someone, get a plan, get. A human being can't help that. A human being can't help that. Do not condemn yourself for the recurrence. Don't make a doctrine out of your first reflex. It is not failure. It is training. You are being trained to return to source again and again until the pathway is worn smooth. All right. What do? You do not wrestle. You do not debate the darkness. You do not try to outthink a picture at 2 in the morning. You sit up if necessary. Yes, if it takes the night, take the night. Not to argue, not to add sentences. To yield. To let one sufficient truth occupy the throne until fear has no chair left. God is my supply. Quietly. Slowly. Not a chant to drown a noise, but a doorway. The 4 words are a doorway. Step through. Now notice the difference between repeating and abiding. Repeating is sound. Abiding is presence. You begin with the words because the mind needs a hand to hold. You continue past the words because the heart has found the hand. And when presence is felt, even slightly, even as a soft warmth, a gentle loosening, the words may drop away of themselves. Don't be superstitious. Let them drop. Sit in the hush. The law does not get stronger because you keep talking. It governs because you consent. There is a quiet test in this. Watch for the moment the mind stops reaching outward, reaching for a person to text, a fact to fetch, a future to forecast. When that reaching pauses, even for a breath, you have witnessed the collapse. The external source has been dismissed. Nothing outside has changed yet. The bill is not paid at 2:05. The symptom has not filed its resignation. The headline has not reversed its verbs. But you are no longer borrowing life from them. That is the miracle. The picture is returned to its place as effect. Cause is restored to God within. And fear, deprived of its food, cannot continue. Don't forget this. What you practice at 2 a.m. is not an emergency trick. It is a way of living. Carry the 4 words into the morning and keep them with you when you send the email, price the job, answer the child, stand in the store, speak to the clerk, sit in the meeting. God is my supply of speech, of patience, of timing, of restraint, of courage. In the degree you abide there, the day answers to night's consent. And if fear returns tomorrow night, you return too, not to fight, to yield, to rest in presence until presence alone is felt as the fact of your being, and fear has no vocabulary left with which to speak. Now the next thought rises like a polite hand in the back row. All right, but surely 4 words can't be enough. Surely there must be more to know, more to say, more to study before I can trust a bill, a body, a headline. That is the human mind speaking, and a human being can't help that. A human being can't help that. But I must answer it with law, not with flattery. Truth cannot be multiplied, and it cannot be divided. Why? Truth is one. One statement of truth, lived until it governs consciousness, contains all truth. I and the Father are one. That is not a fraction. All that the Father hath is mine, not a slice of a pie. When did 2 times 2 begin to be 4? It did not begin. It is. Now let us for a minute accept that statement. Law is whole, and contact with any one facet is contact with the whole. Therefore, God is my supply, lived, is sufficient. There is a second voice that slips in with concern, and I must unmask it. It says, but if I do not manage, if I do not keep every plate spinning, the whole thing will crash. That sounds like responsibility. It is actually pride in a clever disguise. It is the private faith that your personal vigilance holds the universe together. No. That is the very engine of panic, self-enthroned as source. The remedy is humility, not heroics. Let source be source. Let the government of your life be returned to the one who is life. God is my supply is not a slogan. It is the abdication of a little king. You lay down the scepter of anxious managing and consent to be ruled. And in that consent, fear loses its pulpit. What has pride to stand on then? Nothing. Now another objection. Won't this make me passive, indifferent, lazy? Don't forget this. Yielding is not yawning. It is not passivity. It is inspired action from a new center, fearless, honest, unhurried. From God is my supply, the call you make is clean. The no you must say is clean. The yes you must say is clean. You stop bribing tomorrow with today's integrity. You pay what is yours to pay without the sour aftertaste. You decline the shady offer without the tremor of missing out. You rest when you must rest, and you work when you must work. Because timing is supplied, courage is supplied, wisdom is supplied. Action is not suspended. Compulsion is. Movement continues. Panic stops driving. All right, you say, but I don't know enough. That's not true. There isn't anybody within range of my voice that hasn't enough understanding to begin. You have heard the law, and you have proved it in some small way already. One breath quieter at night. One clean decision with money. One headline that did not hire your fear. What more knowledge do you require to take the next quiet step? The only necessary thing is the willingness to practice it. Not tomorrow when you have a certificate. Now, 2 minutes at a desk, 3 minutes beside a bed, a breath before a send button. Practice is the door. Willingness is the key. We have watched it answer in money, in health, in the noise of the world. And where do we end? Where we must always end. In the recognition that Christ is not a person traveling toward you from afar, but the state of consciousness that does not fear externals because it knows source. The 4 words are a doorway into that. Step through and keep stepping, again and again, until it is Christ in you who looks upon figures, upon flesh, upon nations, and does not tremble. Then you will know that you did not need more knowledge. You needed willingness to live one sufficient truth. And in that willingness, the government was returned to God. Now we must end where the law ends, not with a flourish, but with a fact. Christ is not a distant figure to petition, not a traveler to be tracked on a map. Christ is a state of consciousness, your consciousness, when oneness with Source is realized, when dependence on externals has been dismissed, when fear finds no furniture to sit on. In other words, Christ is fearless consciousness because it knows supply as present, not coming, present, not rationed, infinite. And in the degree that this is realized in you, you are not a seeker in a desert. You are a spring. You are not a beggar at gates. You walk with your own key. Now, gather the thread of the hour. We began by refusing the mind's hunger for more truth and accepted that one truth, lived, is sufficient. We traced the anatomy of panic, the human rush to get, from markets, bodies, headlines, approval, and we answered it not with more getting, but with surrender to Source. We stood at law and heard the 4 words, and we watched how they transfer us from the business of acquiring to the life of giving, from calculation to trust, from scattered hustle to clean action. And through money, through health, through world noise, we practiced yielding until externals lost their borrowed crown, and fear, without a throne, could not continue. Don't forget this. Doctrine must become breath. So hear it one more time in the cadence of law. God is my supply. Therefore I am not seeking, not begging, not bargaining. God is my supply. Therefore I am not fearing, not flattering, not forcing. God is my supply. Therefore I am resting, listening, obeying. God is my supply. Therefore I am giving, circulating, serving. In that order, life externalizes harmony because there are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. When consciousness rests in Source, effects fall in order as surely as 2 times 2 is 4. It does not begin, it is. All right. Take a daily rule that even a child can keep. The instant fear begins, before the phone, before the headline, before the calculation. Stop. Do not feed the picture. Do not hire 1,000 advisors in your own skull. Return to the 4 words and wait for the shift. Wait until the shoulders drop, the breath loosens, the bargaining voice runs out of offers. Then move, if there is something to do, and move from quiet. If there is nothing to do nothing from quiet. That is obedience. That is government. And now the call that matters, because it is private. Go into the secrecy of your own being today. Not tomorrow with a certificate. Today. Sit in a chair, or stand at a sink, or pause at a door, and let the 4 words take the throne. Not as a charm, not as a slogan, but as a doorway. Step through and do not step back. Prove it by practice, not by argument. Prove it with a clean payment, a restrained reply, a withheld panic, a generous act that expects nothing. In that proving, you will discover that Christ is present consciousness, your own awareness unafraid, and supply is not promised. It is here. And with that, we close, not with an end, but with governance returned to God.